Hey everyone, just stay tuned and you can figure out how to UV unwrap things. I know it's not 3D printing related, but it's important if you want to take a picture of your model and show it off with the picture rather than the model that most things make of the 3D design that you have. But it's a good thing to learn eventually just to know how to do. But I did have a request for this as well, so that's why I'm doing it, because UV unwrapping in editing is super confusing, and I probably even confused myself more by just doing this tutorial. But hopefully some of you will get a little bit more understanding from this. If you're not interested at all, you don't have to watch it. But for those interested, stay tuned. Hey everyone, this is Kevin with Unwrapping, and today I'm going to be going over UV editing. And it's really confusing, I know. It took me forever to get a grasp on it and to kind of understand exactly what's going on with it. First off, I'm just going to show you how to do it on just a basic plane. That's the easiest way to kind of demonstrate what exactly is going on with everything, because it is like almost like seems like magic when you when you look at it. What I like to do, instead of using the UV editor up here, I just like to open another screen and hit T and N to get rid of the side panels there. So you don't really need those. And first off, I'll start in Blender render mode. And trying to get these centered here. But if you go into edit mode, it shows over here, and then change this one to UV image editor. But if you go into this mode and you go into edit mode, nothing appears on here until you unwrap it. If you unwrap it, it goes and shows the exact same thing on the exact same size here. And so what I'm going to do is there's no, well, that's just my default background picture that I use for my scenery for lighting. But I'm just going to open a file. I just have a bunch of random textures. I'll just pick one at random that has a normal map. That's kind of a square though. Let's do tree bark. That'll work. Let's open that one. And so you open it and it goes back and it doesn't show that exact one, so you have to actually select it. And then if you go into rendered mode, it's dark in here so you don't really see anything. I'm just going to turn on environmental lighting. And it should be showing up there. I'm not sure why it's not. See, that's why it gets confusing, because it's not showing up like it should. Oh, that's right. You have to set a material. Then you have to set a texture. And then you can set it as that. So when you go into the default rendered view, it'll show up as that. So in order for this to work here, once you get it unwrapped, you have to go create a new material, and then on that material has to be selected the middle one here, not this first one. That's for like it's like a world texture. This is the material texture, the center one here. And type image or movie, and then down here is where you can select it. But that's how, that's basically how it kind of works. You have to have a material and you have to have a texture on that material, and that's what that is. And right now there's only the one entire box, And I'm going to change some things here. Right now it's set to repeat, so if I size this up, the texture is going to repeat over and over again. But if I change this to clip, the texture only shows up inside of this box here. And so if I size it down, it's going to show a zoomed in portion of that texture. And that's kind of how it works. Typically it's set on repeat. That's like most of the time you see people working with it, they size it up like that and it changes the things because it's usually on repeat. And it'll repeat the texture like that. But if you set it to clip, it only does it like that. And what I'm going to do is go into solid mode again, in edit mode. I'm going to hit W, subdivide. Just going to split that up, and it splits up the UV map over here as well. So I'll do that a couple times. And go back into out of edit mode, from the rendered mode. See, it's the same there. And see, you can select and deselect over here in UV editing. And you can adjust it, and see how I move those up, how I made that distorted there. Whatever you change over here kind of affects, or actually it's a direct correlation, it affects that over there. If I size that down to normal, and you can see that it kind of changes it, manipulates it that way. Because what's happening is, let me go back out of there. This particular row here, I'm actually moving that row up. So if I move this row up, like that one, it'll look normal because in the edit mode, why is it not showing up now? Okay. I think it's frustrating when it's not working quite right. Oh, that's right. It only shows up what's selected. So if nothing's selected, nothing shows up. If I just select these, down here, just those are going to show up. If I select all of these, see, I got those similar size now. So if I select everything, it looks somewhat normal. It's not exact, but it looks pretty close. And that's why it gets confusing with these, because if you size this entire thing up, it makes it really big, it's really small. If you size it that way, it's only going to show that certain part of the texture on the actual object. And see, that's looks like it's doing the complete opposite, in which it actually kind of is. But being that it's clipped, it's only showing that portion of this over here. See, it's only showing, we got these 1, 2, let me size it up. That's those two middle rows. That's only showing these two middle rows here. See, if I highlight these, it's just showing those there. And that's what gets confusing about the UV unediting, UV editing and everything. Like, it gets so confusing for everybody. It took me forever to figure this out, but that's just how it works, basically. And so that's basically the gist of that. Let me try it with a more complicated object and just start a new file. Let's go ahead and make a cylinder. That's the next step up. And create this here. Get rid of those. Go to UV editing mode. And I'm going to loop this a couple times, loop cut. Make nice even squares there. And so what you can do is, being that this is a cylinder, just select these certain rows, unwrap cylinder projection. See, it unwraps it kind of weird because it also included the top here. So if we undo that and go into face select mode and just select these faces here, see that top's not selected now, or is it? Yeah, it is. We don't want that selected, so it's not selected now. And hit unwrap cylinder projection, and it does it kind of wavy because of the angle I have it at. So if you have it straight on and do cylinder projection, it does it straight. So it does matter at which angle you're unwrapping it at. Let's see how it's really weird there. So you want to have it like parallel with the way you want it. It's like almost project from view. That does it from the exact same view, but it's kind of, it doubles up everything. That's really not a good way to do it. But if you unwrap it from a cylinder projection, it unwraps everyone along the whole entire thing, around the entire object that way, and it only unwraps the ones that you select. So we don't want the top and the bottom. And make sure it's straight on, unwrap cylinder projection. So it unwraps the entire cylinder that way. And then what you can do is you can select the top and the bottom and go from the top view, unwrap, project from view. Only problem is you get two of them that you can. Let me undo that. So let's just do one of them. Unwrap from view. Grab that and move it out of the way. Select the other side. And Control 7, go to the opposite side. Project from view. Grab that, move that down out of the way. Now if we select them all, we have all of them. Move that. We have everything there, but the problem that we have now is if we put a texture in there, it will only fill in just the walls and not the top and the bottom. That's where you have to kind of use textures that are kind of different, because you can get everything to fit on there. And do a blank one, or you can open a file. I don't really have anything for an example. Should have created something, but it's got a bunch of random things here. No, I don't know. Let's try this red brick here. So if we look at it, and oh, it's in cycle still, and Blender render, change it to environment lighting. Normally you don't want to use environment lighting unless you really know what you're doing with it. I just use it now for an example. Create a new texture, or new material, click on texture, new texture, and we can just change the image to the brick that we had. And see how that goes all the way around the cylinder, and it's nice and level. Only problem is it matches there. But what we can do is, whoa, what did I do there? I don't know what I did. Just move these around. And so you can kind of size it. This isn't a repeating texture, I don't think. But you can kind of match it up and play along. See, it's not really the perfect match, but it matches up halfway decent. You can size it up this way too. You can actually have these overlap if you want as well. Control plus, when you click on it like that, selects the, if you select one object, it'll select the rest of them that are attached. But you can kind of play around with this to get things to line up. That's not going to be perfect at all, really. Being that it wasn't really meant for the to be a texture anyway. If you just size that one up really big, because it's repeating, set to repeat right now. That's the default typically, is repeating. But when you make it bigger than that, it's just going to repeat it on the texture there. See, that's where it gets confusing again, because it's the image mapping. If you clip it, being that this is that much bigger than the thing there, it's only showing that much, but it's repeating that much more. So if you size this down, even though it's clipping, it's not going to clip the entire thing. You can see the circle is way bigger than the whole thing, so it's going to clip on that. But if we size this down to within this texture box, it'll look alright then. And that's where it gets complicated, is if you don't use clipping and just use it on repeat. That's why when you see people doing it, they always size it up way bigger than the actual object, and you get all these different effects like this. See how it's that small a detail there. Just like the brick here. If I want it to repeat, I can just size that up really big. See, the taller I make this, the narrower the bricks become. If I zoom these in really close and try to adjust to get it to look like normal bricks, select all of those. But that's just kind of another more simple object. Then we can get into even more detailed, confusing objects. Like, what should we make? Spheres are more difficult, like a icosphere. Let's try that. I haven't done this yet. I'm trying to, for a tutorial or nothing. Right now I'm just kind of playing around, and you guys are watching me as I do it, so that's how I do a lot of these. I don't really study too much, I just kind of play around. I do study a little bit, but not a whole lot. And we're in cycles again. Okay, so we got that. And let's create the new material first. Create a new thing. We can actually open an image here. Let's say we want to make, do some grass, make a grass ball. This is one of my favorite grasses that I found. And so this one I don't know what would work best with it because it's not technically a sphere like the UV sphere. So this one might be a little bit tricky. So if we do sphere projection, it'll kind of make it goofy. Let's not do it that way though. Let's try doing only faces again. Leave the top part off of it and the bottom part off of it, and then sphere projection. So we got kind of a grass thing going on. So it's going to show it on the whole thing like that. They're not going to be all equally sized. That's the hard thing. Just to get them all evenly spaced out. So let's try selecting everything. And just do cylinder projection. Kind of does the same thing as the sphere. Kind of unwraps it weird. And so you can size these up and change them around a little bit. So what happens is they get all connected and they get intertwined and makes it hard to get an accurate dimension out of all of them. And then there's the Smart UV project. That one actually works pretty good, looks like, because these are all pretty close in shape, but they're all random is the only problem. So what you can actually do to fix that, hopefully they're not connected, like this. Try that, Control plus, okay. You can actually rotate these. And doesn't my number lock off? Oh, number lock was off. So you can rotate those. And you can try to get them to line up or size them. There's certain things that are harder to unwrap than others. You can use seams and things like that. For really, really super complicated things, it's actually best to unwrap individual things. And I just noticed something while doing this that I think is possible to actually unwrap certain parts and use different textures for one object, which I'm pretty sure that's possible, but let's see, we just did that. I made it smooth, but actually the whole thing make it smooth. Let's see, the hard thing is getting it to match up right. And that's where you can actually do this manually the hard way. So if we just go into regular solid mode, and select that and just go to that one specific face. Kind of unwrap. You can unwrap each individual one by themselves. And just go one by one. This will take a while depending on the object you have. But it is possible if you want to get super detailed. Like if you're making a weapon or something like that, you get the handle just right, or the barrel, or things like that. Have I started over yet? Not yet. I'll just go around the edge here. You just resize it too. So if we go into edit mode, all the ones that I unwrapped, that's the individual ones, and they kind of looks better actually. So you can do that for like the whole object. And let's go ahead and try a new one. I'm probably even confusing everyone more than they already were. Which happens, but like a complicated object like this, something like this would be really hard to texture, but it's possible. And how you'd go about doing this, let me try. I've actually never tried to unwrap anything like this before. We'll see what happens though. New material. Actually, just go to Blender render. Delete that material. New material. New. And we want to put on here. Let's make it some. Let's give it an asphalt texture. This one actually is. What's it called? Repeating? Or I forgot the name of it now. Anyway, it repeats. A repeatable texture. I'll think of the name later, I'm sure. You see it just because there's no unwrapping on it yet, so it's all kind of just bland. So if we go like this, one thing you can do is go into UV editor mode, edit mode. You can actually split this too, that way you can have a rendered version down here and then the version you're working with here, so you can kind of see what you're doing at the same time. So from the top view here, undo, unwrap, project from view, and get a cylinder up here. And shift like Alt 7. Oh, see, it selected some of those bottom ones too. That's not good. Let's try this bottom one. Let's just do faces as well. That way we don't get any stragglers like that one there. up. Oh, it also would help if you're in orthographic mode too. Okay, so that's selected the half. Unwrap from view. See, the inside's kind of distorted there. But what you can do is size that up. Same with the outside. It's going to be slightly distorted. And so that's that. And then we change the view to the opposite side. Project from view. Size that up. Gonna make these the same size here. Size that down to similar. Size that up. See, being that it's on repeat, you can increase it so that it repeats across the entire texture without clipping. And you can make that whatever size you really want. So you don't see the texture here. I can put it there. The texture really doesn't even have to be there. It just kind of helps when it is, so you can see what you're doing with the texture. See, so I just unwrapped that from view. I mean, it's not the best unwrapping there is, but I was just kind of playing around with it. So hopefully this helps you understand a little bit of kind of what's going on with the whole unwrapping thing. See, like this source object, if you select that one there and that one there, they're two opposite completely. So if we go there, that one's not selected. I don't know why that one's not selected. Rotate that around. So we have both sides of it just kind of laid out flat on here. But UV on editing, even for 3D printing, if you create an object, it's good to know how to unwrap the object and UV edit it so that you can actually make a good picture of it if you want to render it. If you hit F12, it renders it. I always have trouble getting the things to go back to where they belong. Okay, we'll go to there. There we go. Here's the rendered version. My computer's having a fit because it's not in cycles mode. Because Blender render uses the CPU mostly, and the cycles uses the GPU. So if you go to cycles and change it to GPU, it goes much faster. But with cycles, Excuse me. It's a whole different. Oh, let me remove it. Okay, I was in material mode. So, an image texture. So in cycles mode, you have to play with these in modes and everything. As you can see, in cycles mode, just with the lighting and everything, it looks a lot more realistic. That's reflecting the sky and reflecting everything else. But it's still unwrapped the way we had it, so the unwrap actually doesn't look that bad in here. Put smooth shading on it, looks like it's more round. It's a subtle difference, but you can see it there. The flat and smooth shading. With cycles, you can do most things over here, but you can also mess with the nodes. That it does a lot more stuff, and I'm still learning that. That's a whole complicated thing because the material nodes gets really complicated. But if you go into UV editing here, it's basically the same thing. Let me just go into the everything's still there. We can just change the size on it. And if we just clipped it, and see how it says repeat here. Just do clip there. It's only going to show the parts that are touching the texture. See the touching there on the inside of the torus. That's all it's going to show on the texture. That's why the repeat function is crucial if you're using textures that will repeat. Otherwise, you have to stay within the texture bounds. And it gets more confusing. But depending on how big you make the UV, this is the UV Unwrap here. Depending on how big you make that is how detailed the unwrap becomes. If you look at that, that's really detailed now, but it's repeated a lot, and you can start seeing the repeat layers of the actual texture there. But when you export UVs and everything that goes with the file, especially FBX files, and even Unity has you could put the whole blend in there, and it takes the whole UV unwrapping with it. So when you texture anything like a game engine, it actually stays with it. And so it's kind of important to unwrap it right to begin with in Blender, or any 3D modeling program for that matter. That way you can get the true appearance that you want. And so you can see the kind of the split on the edge there. That is different. But overall, it's pretty similar. In cycles, you kind of got to play around with it because it gets confusing because it has nodes and all that kind of stuff. But right now, it's pretty simple. It's just the image texture that I selected here because I picked the material, surface, diffuse. There's other ones too that I like to use that I learned from the Blender Guru and Cinecat Pro or whatever his name is. And the PBR dielectric, those ones are awesome. With the metal one, it's really cool. But basically, it's this here, the material, and then you just add the image texture onto that for the color. Because you can have this just be a color by itself. Whatever color you want. You can make it glass. They're done pretty cool. make it wherever you want, really. But when you have the environment texture in the background, it helps with the lighting, makes things look even more realistic. You can make it an emission shader, which makes it really bright. Actually adds lighting to everything. Glossy just makes everything reflective. So it looks kind of like metal then. We're still using the color. Just make it whatever color you want. That's what I like about cycles. It just, everything looks a lot more realistic. Like hair, I don't know really what that does, but never really messed around with the hair one. Volume absorption is just kind of like a shadow, sort of. There's all kinds of different ones. Toon shader's kind of fun. Kind of makes everything look cartoony. You can add textures to it and brick texture. Just all the different sizes and stuff here. See, that's after we UV unwrapped it, though. You have to do that first before you can adjust the sizes and stuff. And in order to get it to unwrap that way, you'd have to unwrap that. Anyway, I think that's going to be it for this tutorial. It's kind of a long one, but UV unwrapping is really confusing. And if anybody's still confused, just leave me a message down in the comments and everything, and I'll try to get back to you and respond with a video and see what I can do. But if not, if you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If not, then give me a thumbs down. It's up to you. Don't forget to share and subscribe and all that stuff if you haven't already. And nobody's signed up for my Reddit page for Invent the Mark on there yet. I don't know why, but I want to try to develop a community with that for everybody to help each other. Just thought I'd remind everybody of that if they haven't looked at that yet. Anyway, thanks for watching.